Hey everybody. So I'm reviewing Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I didn't actually complete what I wanted to say the other time. What I wanted to say was the neutral voice in this story is very important. And I said this before, but I think I recognized something I didn't before, which is that the neutral voice has more of an impact than what I thought now in my new life, in what I'm doing now more than ever. And not because of what I don't agree with, which is being a person who would be, I won't take anybody's side, that kind of thing. What's most important in Deus Ex Mankind Divided is that there's actually a showing of I can hear everybody's side and objectively think about it and come back. There's no personal thing involved, so it works. If there's a personal substance to the story about how he was made, which there is, but this part of the story doesn't necessarily take away or pull back from how he was made. He couldn't control that part. That part wasn't under his control. And also, that wasn't something that was in his substance since he was a little baby or something. This happened later on in his life. So there's a different juxtaposition compared to, let's say, a family member saying, I'm not taking anybody's side. Well, that's great. The thing is, are you going to hear my side? That's what Deus Ex Mankind Divided does. It brings out probably the best and most impactful understanding. It's such a small world. I liked how one of the persons who made it said it. It's deep. It's a small pocket, but it's so deep. There's so much in that pocket that it's the world that it's being built in. It may not have like huge open world, but it has such substance and so much depth in each little part. You could do so many different things, and there's so many different layers to the storyline from the side stories, from everything else. The impact of those small side missions make an impact in the big story. Now, if you ask me why Deus Ex Mankind Divided affected me so much, it actually is because I didn't have an objective voice around me. Almost to this day. My life changed a lot, and in the last year or so, I'm happy to say that I was able to get rid of people from my life that I never have. That I didn't think I'd have to. But I learned something very deeply from Deus Ex Mankind Divided in the last 2-3 years, 4 years, I guess. This game has had such an impact in my life because it's really about an internal struggle and how to maintain focus even with an internal struggle. Because Adam Jensen, the main character, has that internal struggle. From the last game, you found out almost immediately, he was augmented, he was given all these things because of his injuries, and he's still doing almost the same work that he was to get those injuries. How would that make him feel? Well, now, since the world now had an augmented manipulation happen, where they all were controlled and manipulated to act a certain way and to kill, now he's living in a world where, as one of my favorite quotes in the first trailer for this game was, sometimes you have to let go and embrace what you become. And I love that, because I think that's what this game really is about. It's called Mankind Divided, but that's not the main focus of it. And I think that's what is empowering about it as individuals. The substance of the world is actually shown in that by saying mankind divided in these years. But what's ominous and almost beautiful about it is that the individual is what's making themselves matter. So yes, there are many things in this world that exist. I'm not going to say no matter what, because there is ways we could stop certain things from happening, and there is not a no matter what scenario. The difference is we're in this mankind divided moment, where pretty much most people have spoken to me in a way over the years that just worry about your own life. But that comes along with the same baggage of how they act racist, how they act with manipulation. I would agree with those sentiments only if they actually didn't do those parts. Along with that, just worry about yourself kind of thing. If you actually believed that, you wouldn't be racist, you wouldn't be manipulative to others, whether it's your own kids or people around you. And I think that's what Deus Ex Mankind Divided looks at. It doesn't terrorize the people that are terrorizing. It actually questions everything objectively, and you make a choice that's so layered on what you can do. You don't have to choose one or two things. There's no black and white answers only. Those are there. They're options. But the options are more than unanimous to have like, oh, I can do that too. And when you think about reality, we're really working at it that way too. Because the story of what Deus Ex Mankind Divided was saying is that we have many choices. But what substance do we want from our lives to make those choices with? And I think I said that in the last video for Deus Ex Mankind Divided, that what it was saying empirically is that the neutral voice can move in any part of the views in Mankind Divided, whatever division you want to go on the side of, and not just go on the side of, but hear the side of. And you can do that and hear it and wonder, what do I want to do? That's when the consequence comes with your actions. I think that's another thing I learned about consequences and everything, that most people actually believe consequence comes out of the air or something, that it doesn't come from an action or an interpersonal belief. Mankind Divided actually shows it in a very different way. The choices you make don't bring a consequence, it brings a reaction. So Adam Jensen is always getting a reaction to something that he is acting on. But how the world is divided in this story is what ultimately is controlling how each side is going to be treated. And ultimately, what Adam Jensen says, that what he's doing in this story is stopping the people that are augmented that want to take on the other ones. And at the same time, stopping the people that are not augmented, trying to separate all these people. It's a big undertaking to try to show all that. And I like that it's such a small pond of it. Most games and most reviewers have said that this isn't really well made. I think it's one of the best games ever made, actually, because it doesn't try to finish everything. But it tells the story in a very open way so that we make the decision ultimately. I played all the other Deus Exes, and when I played the first original one, I could see where it came from, a personal, you started as a baby and you don't know your whole story kind of thing. The second one was very much neutral on every single front you could think of. So you came in going through it neutrally. There was hardly any point of, oh, I can choose here, but the choices were still black and white. And Human Revolution was the beginning of this storyline. And I think it showed, okay, it's before how the world views augmented people. It's accepted, it's loved, it's fine, There's still abrasiveness towards it, but it's not as big as when this happens in Mankind Divided, or before Mankind Divided, up into Mankind Divided. I talked about Tiananmen Square, the 1955 thing where the gentleman said, I'm not trying to change the world, I'm just showing the world it can't change me. That's good. I also think now, looking at this neutral voice that's in this game, that it's somehow touching on the subject of having an individual voice in a very objective way, but not taking away from the individual voice by doing that. And I will say there's parts I will not say that's possible with, but in this storyline it's very possible because this person isn't personally connected to these things ever since birth or something. But in other situations like the first Deus Ex, I would say no, that's personally connected. Why do you think that hit so much of the audience back then in the year 2000? This was in 2016 this one came out. Beautiful game. I think it's beautiful because it doesn't have to be the exact same kind of connection. I actually think it's a bigger connection because it actually shows an objective and neutral voice, which is harder to keep. I guess considering what's happening in this game, what I feel overall is that the game starts and ends with a message of why are there people trying to hurt people still, knowing that it's about them being hurt. Why are the augmented attacking regular people now just because these things are happening? Well, there's rational thought about it. They don't want to be treated like that. So the violence comes in. And I think also what I've seen from this game in particular at the end is that there'll always be just one person as the target. And it's funny that this game does that too. It gives you a choice on what to do next, and it establishes a lot more to what's going to happen next. But ultimately it makes it so that there's one big bad, and that was a little disappointing, but it didn't disappoint me that the story was over. It disappointed me that, okay, but why is that voice now crippled to an extent of why did it have to change the surface message of what this person is saying? And I think that's an important thing that happens when people have a voice in a very violent way. And I'm not saying violence shouldn't be done. I'm actually saying that it does have a consequence in and of itself when there's violence, obviously. But that's not the most important part here. I think Mankind Divided, the most important part is that the neutral voice in this situation can be so inside their head in a way that's a negative space, like, and I think that's what Adam Jensen is. He's very much like, he doesn't know everything he can be, but he's still doing all this in a big way. And I think Mankind Divided really touches on a lot of subjects that, including what's going on now, what's going on with separated families, what's going on with across the border and everything, what's going on with racism, what's going on with the KKK, what's going on with almost everything in the world right now. And I think it's funny that Mankind Divided did it in a way where it's about technology. I guess because in a way it's kind of foretelling how we're going to view things. And most people probably don't expect us to be so against technology now. But racism is still here in a very big way. In fact, bigger than it probably was when slavery was around. Because if you can't have slaves, what do you want? But yeah, it's a beautiful game. That's what I'm going to say about it.